with the hands. Adds to the ambiance, I think. Splash down. That's always fun. It gets old. There we go. So welcome to the Charles River, everybody. The mighty Charles.
Wow, the camera.
This is where the river meets the sea. It's where the Charles River flows into Boston Harbor. The harbor's right on the left. On the other side of the bridge is the dam. On the other side of the dam is the harbor. On the other side of the harbor is Ireland. Well, East Boston, actually. And then it's not Ireland. Ireland's too far north. It's probably Spain. Maybe Portugal, but I think probably Spain. But the dam opened up in 1979, just in the nick of time, because about a month after it opened, we had the biggest snowstorm in the history of Boston, the blizzard of 78. I said 79, I meant 78. They wouldn't have had the blizzard of 78 and 79, I don't think. But the blizzard of 78 dumped 4 feet of snow on the city of Boston, 4 feet. 5 feet on Rhode Island. They're still trying to find Rhode Island. They can't find it. But the storm surge from the blizzard of 78, you know, 18-foot waves, 16, 18 feet. It was record storm surge. The old dam where the museum is, over there on the right, you know, that was built around 1910. It really wasn't built for flood control. So it could only take a storm surge like 8 to 10 feet. That would be about it. So if we had that, the new dam, we might have been in trouble. Might have had some flooding, especially over in the Back Bay. But you know, the largest flood in Boston, the most devastating flood in modern history in Boston, was about 100 years ago. It was in 1919, January 1919, over in the North End on Commercial Street, not too far from the Garden over there, right down the street from the Garden. Right on the water, there was this big metal tank, this big old rickety thing. It was made out of corrugated iron, but it was 50 feet high, it was 70 feet across, and it held molasses from Barbados in the West Indies, 2.5 million gallons of molasses. And one day in January 1919, right, they filled up the tank, they filled it up to the top. It burst. The tank exploded. Sent a wave of molasses like 20 feet high, 35 miles an hour into the north end of Boston. The Great Molasses Flood. The Dark Tide, they called it. But it was devastating. It killed 21 people. 21 people killed, 150 people injured, millions of dollars in damage. You know, it wiped out the elevated railway, it knocked down a fire station. It took months to clean it up. You can imagine all that sticky stuff all over the streets. Is that a cormorant? Yeah, cormorant. They go fishing. But it was also the first class action lawsuit in American history was the molasses flood. The lock here was built around 1911. It's going to bring us into the main basin of the Charles River. It was a functioning lock, you know, into the middle of the 20th century. You can see all this equipment on the side here. The river was higher than the harbor, right? So if you wanted to go from the harbor to the river, you had to get lifted into the river. Now the harbor is further back. It doesn't come up as far anymore. So Boston's on the left. Cambridge is on the right. Cambridge is a separate city. Has about 100,000 people. The fifth largest city in Massachusetts, well known for, you know, biomedical research in Cambridge. The Moderna vaccine was actually developed in Cambridge. That's where the Moderna vaccine was developed. Also MIT, Harvard, other leading colleges over in Cambridge as well. That's Massachusetts General Hospital on the left. Mass General is the largest employer in the city. About 30,000 people work at Mass General. Medicine's the #1 industry now in Boston. Medicine's #1. Financial services #2. Education is #3. And duck boats #4. Tourism's #4. We're part of that. I think Dunkin' Donuts could be #4 probably. But Mass General was the first teaching hospital in the United States. The first one to be affiliated with a medical school, with Harvard Medical School. In the 1840s, the first operation using ether was at Mass General Hospital. And then 50 years later, in the 1890s, the first x-ray in a medical procedure. And then in the 1960s, the first reattached limb was at Mass General. I believe it was an arm. We're very lucky in Boston. We really are. We've got world-class medical care that we have access to. We're very, very fortunate. The park by the river, that's the Esplanade. That's where we have the big 4th of July concert on the Esplanade with the Boston Pops, usually. Not last year, they didn't have one. And this year, they're going to have a concert on the 4th of July with the Pops, but it's going to be from Tanglewood, which is up in the Berkshires. You know, that's where the Pops have their summer residence, out in Tanglewood. So the concert's going to be from there. They will have fireworks in Boston on the 4th of July, but not on the Esplanade. Usually they have a couple of big barges out here in the river to shoot off the fireworks, but it's going to be on the Common this year. But it's better than nothing, you know. At least we're making some progress. We've done something this year. It was a very quiet 4th of July last year. We're going to go under the bridge. That's the Longfellow Bridge, straight ahead. Sometimes they call it the Salt and Pepper Bridge, or the Pepper Pot Bridge, because the towers look like old-fashioned salt and pepper shakers, you know, like our grandmas might have had. But the bridge was built in 1908. It was named after Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, the great poet. He lived over in Cambridge. He lived near Harvard Square, Mount Auburn Street, about a mile away, a little more than a mile. He was a professor at Harvard. He taught literature. And he would always walk over the old bridge. There was the old West Bridge that used to be here. To go see his friends in Boston, you know, he'd take long walks every day. So when they built the new bridge around the turn of the 20th century, they decided to name it after Longfellow. I like the Viking ships on the side. It's a nice motif. The one on the left is for Boston. The one on the right is for Cambridge. The Vikings never came to Boston, you know. They never explored the Charles River, but when the bridge was being built, there were a couple of professors at Harvard who were convinced that the Vikings had been here before, that they'd been here first, but no evidence of it. But we did get a couple of nice Viking ships out of it anyway. There's the old jail. See the white wooden tower above the trees there? The old Charles Street jail. It's a big hulk of a building. You might be able to see more of it when we get clear of the trees, but it's made out of granite. It's kind of scary. But it was built in 1840. They condemned it around 1990. They closed it down. They said it was unfit for human habitation. So they closed it down. They built a new jail. And then they turned this one into a hotel. The Liberty Hotel. So it was unfit for human habitation, but people are now paying like $600 a night to stay there. It's a nice place, though. We had our holiday party there a couple years ago, and the bar is called the Alibi. The restaurant's called the Clink. Oh, is that Jack? Oh, look at this. This is a duck boat group here. Don't harass us. There we go. They are. You're waking them up. Stop it. You're going to wake them up. Some of our duck boat people having a little outing. Kind of a busman's holiday, huh? You get away from the river to come back to the river. We all do that. Nice view straight ahead. There's the The Back Bay. I think the best view of the Back Bay is from the water. I really do. There's the John Hancock down in Copley Square. We were there not too long ago. The Prudential is the second tallest building in Boston. The Prudential Tower on the right. The one with the communications equipment up on top. Somebody once said that the Hancock was the biggest mirror in the world, and the Prudential was the box it came in. The old Hancock right to the left, the one with the needle, 200 Berkeley Street. The needle's a weather beacon. It tells you what the weather's going to be. If it's solid blue, clear view. But if it's solid red, rain ahead. But I think it's blue today, so that's a good sign, at least for the rest of today anyway. MIT's on the right. That's part of the campus of MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology. The red triangle on the right, the Citgo sign, that's Kenmore Square. Fenway Park is just to the left. You can see the center field lights in Fenway. The oldest ballpark in the major leagues. It opened up in April of 1912. The first pitch was thrown out by the mayor, John F. Fitzgerald. John F. Kennedy's grandfather. He threw out the first pitch at Fenway Park. The oldest ballpark in the majors and the smallest ballpark in the majors. It only seats about 37,000. The hatch shell, the round concrete dome over there, that was built in the 1930, and that's where they have the 4th of July